All right, good morning. It's early here. Let's get a few chapters in before school. That way that you can pick up on the chapters later when you go home. I'm gonna fix my hair because I'm looking pretty wild. This is not a show for glamour. This is a show for reading. Okay. All right, here we go. So we are starting with chapter 16. I don't know. 16, that looks like 15. I don't know. I gotta stop with the hands. "Do you miss your friend greatly?" asked Mademoiselle Reisz one morning as she came creeping up behind Edna, who had just left her cottage on her way to the beach. She spent much of her time in the water since she had acquired finally the art of swimming. As their stay at Grand Isle grew near its close, she felt that she could not give too much time to a diversion which afforded her the only real pleasurable moments that she knew. When Mademoiselle Reisz came and touched her upon the shoulder and spoke to her, the woman seemed to echo the thought which was ever in Edna's mind, or better, the feeling which constantly possessed her. Robert's going had some way taken the brightness, the color, the meaning out of everything. The conditions of her life were in no way changed, but her whole existence was dulled, like a faded garment which seems to be no longer worth wearing. She sought him everywhere, in others whom she induced to talk about him. She went up in the mornings to Madame Lebrun's room, braving the clatter of the old sewing machine. She sat there and chatted at intervals as Robert had done. She gazed around the room at the pictures and photographs hanging upon the wall and discovered in some corner an old family album, which she examined with the keenest interest, appealing to Madame Lebrun for enlightenment concerning the many figures and faces which she discovered between its pages. There was a picture of Madame Lebrun with Robert as a baby, seated in her lap, a round-faced infant with a fist in his mouth. The eyes alone in the baby suggested the man, and that was he, also in kilts at the age of 5, wearing long curls and holding a whip in his hand. It made Edna laugh, and she laughed too at the portrait in his first long trousers, while another interested her, taken when he left for college, looking thin, long-faced, with eyes full of fire, ambition, and great intentions. But there was no recent picture, none which suggested the Robert who had gone away 5 days ago, leaving a void and wilderness behind him. Oh, Robert stopped having his picture taken when he had to pay for them himself. He found wiser use for his money. He says, explained Madame Lebrun. She had a letter from him, written before he left New Orleans. Edna wished to see the letter, and Madame Lebrun told her to look for it either on the table or the dresser, or perhaps it was on the mantelpiece. The letter was on the bookshelf. It possessed the greatest interest and attraction for Edna. The envelope, its size and shape, the postmark, the handwriting. She examined every detail of the outside before opening it. There were only a few lines, setting forth that would leave the city that afternoon, that he had packed his trunk in good shape, that he was well and sent her his love and begged to be affectionately remembered to all. There was no special message in Edna except a postscript saying that if Mrs. Pontellier desired to finish the book which he had been reading to her, his mother would find it in his room, among other books there on the table. Edna experienced a pang of jealousy because he had written to his mother rather than to her. Everyone seemed to take for granted that she missed him. Even her husband, when he came down the Saturday following Robert's departure, expressed regret that he had gone. "How do you get on without him, Edna?" he asked. "It's very dull without him," she admitted. Mr. Pontellier had seen Robert in the city, and Edna asked him a dozen questions or more. Where had they met? On Caroledet Street? In the morning? Had they gone in, had a drink and a cigar together? What had they talked about? Chiefly about his prospects in Mexico, which Mr. Pontellier thought were promising. How did he look? How did he seem? Grave or gay, or how? Quite cheerful and wholly taken up with the idea of his trip, which Mr. Pontellier found altogether natural in a young fellow about to seek fortune and adventure in a strange, queer country. Edna tapped her foot impatiently and wondered why the children persisted in playing in the sun when they might be under the trees. She went down and led them out of the sun, scolding the quadroon for not being more attentive. It did not strike her as in the least grotesque that she should be making of Robert the object of conversation and leading her husband to speak of him. The sentiment which she entertained for Robert in no way resembled that which she felt for her husband, or had ever felt, or ever expected to feel. She had all her life long been accustomed to harbor thoughts and emotions which never voiced themselves. They had never taken the form of struggles. They belonged to her and were her own, and she entertained the conviction that she had a right to them and that they concerned no one but herself. Edna had once told Madame Ratignolle that she would never sacrifice herself for her children, or for anyone. Then had followed a rather heated argument. The two women did not appear to understand each other or to be talking the same language. Edna tried to appease her friend, to explain. I would give up the unessential. I would give up my money. I would give my life for my children, but I wouldn't give myself. I can't make it more clear. It's only something which I am beginning to comprehend, which is revealing itself to me. I don't know what you would call the essential or what you mean by the unessential, said Madame Ratignolle cheerfully, but a woman who would give her life for her children could do no more than that. Your Bible tells you so. I'm sure I couldn't do more than that. Oh, yes, you could, laughed Edna. She was not surprised at Mademoiselle Reisz's question the morning that lady followed her to the beach, tapped her on the shoulder, and asked if she did not greatly miss her young friend. Oh, good morning, mademoiselle. Is it you? Why, of course I miss Robert. Are you going down to Bath? Why should I go down to going down to bathe? Why should I go down to bathe at the very end of the season when I haven't been in the surf all summer? Replied the woman disagreeably. I beg your pardon, offered Edna in some embarrassment, for she thought she'd remember that Mademoiselle Reisz's avoidance of the water had furnished a theme for much pleasantry. Some among them thought it was on her account of her false hair, or the dread of getting the violets wet, while others attributed it to the natural aversion for water, sometimes believed to accompany the artistic temperament. Mademoiselle offered Edna some chocolates in a paper bag, which she took from her pocket by way of showing that she bore no ill feeling. She habitually ate chocolates for their sustaining quality. They contained much nutriment in small compass, she said. They saved her from starvation, as Madame Lebrun's table was utterly impossible, and no one save so impertinent a woman as Madame Lebrun could think of offering such food to people and requiring them to pay for it. She must feel very lonely without her son, said Edna, desiring to change the subject. Her favorite son, too. It must have been quite hard to let him go. Mademoiselle laughed maliciously. Her favorite son? Oh, dear. Who could have been imposing such a tale upon you? Aline Lebrun lives for Victor, and for Victor alone. She spoiled him into the worthless creature he is. She worships him and the ground he walks on. Robert is very well, in a way, to give up all the money he can earn to the family and keep the barest pittance for himself. Favorite son, indeed. I miss the poor fellow myself, my dear. I'd like to see him and to hear about the place. The only Lebrun who is worth a pinch of salt. He comes to see me often in the city. I like to play for him. That Victor hanging would be good for him, too. It's a wonder Robert hasn't beaten him to death long ago. I thought he had great patience with his brother, offered Edna, glad to be talking about Robert, no matter what was said. Ah, he thrashed him well enough a year or two ago, said Mademoiselle. It was about a Spanish girl whom Victor considered that he had some sort of claim upon her. He met Robert one day talking to the girl and walking with her, or bathing with her, or carrying her basket, I don't remember what, and it became so insulting and abusive that Robert gave him a thrashing on the spot that has kept him comparatively in order for a good while. It's about time he was getting another. Was her name Mariquita? Asked Edna. Mariquita. Yes, that's it, Mariquita. I had forgotten. Oh, she's a sly one, and a bad one, that Mariquita. Edna looked down at Madame Reisz and wondered how she could have listened to her venom so long. For some reason, she felt depressed, almost unhappy. She had not intended to go into the water, but she donned her bathing suit and left Mademoiselle alone, seated under the shade of the children's tent. The water was growing cooler as the season advanced. Edna plunged and swam about with an abandon that thrilled and invigorated her. She remained a long time in the water, half hoping that Mademoiselle Reisz would not wait for her. But Mademoiselle waited. She was very amiable during the walk back and raved much over Edna's appearance in her bathing suit. She talked about music. She hoped that Edna would go to see her in the city, and wrote her address with the stub of a pencil on a piece of card which she found in her pocket. When do you leave? Asked Edna. Next Monday. And you? The following week, answered Edna, adding, It has been a pleasant summer, hasn't it, mademoiselle? Well, agreed Mademoiselle Reisz with a shrug, rather pleasant if it hadn't been for the mosquitoes and the Farreville twins.